Hello and welcome back. We have a 3-loop mesh problem, something that's a little bit different from the last one. Hopefully you guys understood the last problem that I showed and have a good grasp on the 3 steps that I mentioned. If I can find them, I don't know where I put them. Here they are. Just another quick look if you need them. Now, mesh is something that you may have certain questions that start to look complicated, but no matter what, if you're using mesh, there's really no question that's too complicated for someone who truly understands what they're doing. So we'll take a little look at this one. It has 3 loops, but it's nothing too crazy. So I've already designated I1, I2, and I3. It really does not matter what the order is, but you do need to get them down. And as mentioned before, they should be clockwise, but you can do counterclockwise if you're a rebel. So we'll start off I1. We'll go loop 1. Actually, we'll just write out loop 1, 2, and 3 right now. And I'm going to skip a few steps. Not so much. They're not so much steps as I'll keep it a little bit more straightforward this time than I did last time. So I1 will start from up here. We have minus I1 times 10 ohms. Okay. Then we come down around. We have minus I1 times 6 ohms because and we will also be putting plus I3 times 6 ohms, okay? And so, as we mentioned before, I forget to put these polarities, but it should be, the current should be exiting out of the negative portion of the resistor. So in this case, we have I3s coming around, and it's actually going to have a negative like that, okay? And I apologize for not putting these before. I had a more thorough explanation of this in the last video, but because these two portions of the circuit are sharing this one resistor, we're going to have I1 times 6 ohms plus, so it's minus I1 times 6 ohms plus I3 times 6 ohms. So that's what we have here. Now we're going to continue through the circuit. We have minus I1 times 9 ohms, and then we're going to have plus, same thing as over here. We're going to have plus, we're going to have plus I2 times 9 ohms, okay? And that's all we have for that line. And I really should have put the polarity signs up first, but as mentioned in the previous video, it's when you're exiting, you should be exiting that resistor on the negative portion of the resistor. So you enter through the plus and exit out of the negative. And I hope that makes sense because that's an important point, and putting the polarities is a vital part of getting this right. So loop number 2, I2, we'll start out with, we have 15 volts, okay, minus I2 times 9 ohms plus, it's shared by I1, so I1 times 9 ohms minus, so then we have minus I2 times 5 ohms, and it's shared by I3 times 5 ohms, okay? And you'll notice that this starts getting very repetitive after a while. And it's just mostly practice until you truly understand how to do this. So I3 will start from maybe down here. So we're going around and we have minus I3 times 5 ohms. But you guessed it, it's plus I2 because it's shared times 5 ohms. Okay, so far so good. Keep going around, minus I3 times 6 ohms. And it is shared as well, so plus I1 times 6 ohms. And then we're running out of space a little bit here, so I'll just make sure you can keep track of where I'm going. Minus I3 times 3 ohms. That's the final one right here. Okay, so let's simplify this a little bit and clean it up. So we have, we'll say loop 1 right here. I'll move this up. Loop 1 right here, we have minus I1 times, we've got a 10, we've got, so a 10, a 6, and a 9. So we're going to go 10 plus, plus 6 plus 9, okay? And then we've got a, what do we have here? I think I2, so plus I2, 9 ohms, and we have, what else do we have? I3 plus I3, 6 ohms. And because there's no voltage there, it equals 0, okay? Next one we have, we'll put our I2 in the I2 position, so, or sorry, our I1 in the I1 position, so I think the only I1 we have is 9 ohms, so we'll put 9 ohms there, okay? Then we have an I2 here and an I2 here, so we'll go minus I2, and that's 5 plus 9, so we'll go 14 ohms, okay? And what else do we have? We have plus I3 times 5 ohms, okay? So that looks good so far, and we have a voltage there, so it'll be minus 15 because we're changing sides. Now we have, for loop 3, we have I1 times 6 ohms, and we have, what do we have? We have plus I2 times 5 ohms, and we have minus I3 times 6 plus 3, which is 9, and 5, so 14. Is that right? 14, and equals 0. Now, I'll just write over this a little bit, 1 second. So this is, we have 10, 6, 9, do a little math in my head. 25. Okay, so here's an interesting part about mesh analysis. You can split it right down the middle after you have this matrix. You line up the I1, I2, and I3 voltage, and loop 1, loop 2, loop 3, okay? And you should have an even split where you have a mirrored image, so 9 ohms, 9 ohms, 6 ohms, 6 ohms, okay? And then you see 5 ohms and 5 ohms. So it's an easy check, and you can get it right every time if you know to do this and you know what you're doing. So thank you for watching the video. I'll do one other kind of hairy example, but I think you guys should be able to figure it out with enough practice, and I really hope this is helpful. Thanks.